Welcome back to the second video in my Learning How to Sew series, and this one is going to be the best one yet because we're going to be learning how to make a beanbag. You can use this as a toy, it can be a pillow for your teddy bear, it can also be a pattern weight when we start making clothes from patterns. Now the point of this video is to learn about seam allowance, what it is and why we need it. Apart from everything that I talked about in the last video, we're going to need some material and something to fill the bean bags. I have beans.
The first step of basically any project is to get rid of all those creases. On your nice crisp fabric, go ahead and mark and cut out 2 squares. Mine were 11 centimeters. I want to show you what happens when you sew very close to the fabric edge. At the edge, the fibres of the fabric can easily come loose and cause fraying. This results in a super weak stitch that can be easily pulled apart. Not good. And this can be embarrassing. Let's say you made a pair of trousers, you're walking down the street, and they fall apart. So to avoid this, we sew the seam some distance in from the fabric edge, and this distance is called the seam allowance. Some sewing machines like mine have various seam allowances marked on them. A typical seam allowance is 1 centimeter away from the fabric edge, which I'm going to mark on my squares. Next, pin the squares together to make sure they don't move around when we're sewing them. It's time to stitch these 2 squares together. We're going to leave a gap on one side so that we can put the beans in though. Stitch straight along the marked seam allowance, and when you get to a corner, stop with the needle down, lift the foot, turn the fabric 90 degrees, drop the foot and keep going. Remember to stop, leaving a gap in one side. Through the gap, turn the whole thing right side out. Make sure to push the corners out properly. That's where the beans are going to go. A tip to make life easier when filling the bag with beans is to take a square of paper and roll it up to make a simple funnel. You don't want to fill the bag completely. I'd say you want it about a half to 2/3 full. If it's too full, you won't be able to get it shut, that's why. To close the bag, fold over the material in the gap in line with the rest of the seam and pull it tight. Secure with a pin. Now the very final part, to close up the bag. You want to sew around the outside of the bag, as close to the edge as possible, making sure that you stitch through both the top and bottom fabrics. When you get to the pin, just take that out. You don't want to sew over it. Go all the way around. Again, when you get to a corner, stop with needle down, lift the foot, turn, and then keep sewing. As you go around, move the beans out of the way of the machine. Sewing machines don't like the taste of beans. When you've come full circle, it's really important that you sew over a little bit the stitch that you made at the start. If you don't do this, the whole beanbag can come loose, and of course that'll be a disaster.
So, I hope you had a lot of fun making your beanbag. Don't worry if the first one didn't turn out quite as well as you wanted it to. That's normally always the case. Practice makes perfect. Also, feel free to play around. You can make any shape you like this hexagon, or even something really funky, like this guy. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.